Welcome this morning to the 11 Stretch. My name is Alex Schneider, along with my good friend and co-host.
My name is Paul Abbey.
Shooting this video super early this morning, trying to get some stuff out because I have a very busy schedule today. But nonetheless, the day before we go back to school, me and Paul, there's really nothing to report on the Cardinals front. Nothing really to talk about. Everything is going somewhat to plan as it should. No huge news. There's two big things that I can think of. One, Carlos Gomez went to the Rangers. He did not sign with the Cardinals or the Miami Marlins like I predicted that he would. They designated him to AAA. And then the other big thing is, if you didn't know already, Matt Holliday had surgery. So they are expecting him back in September. Well, they're not expecting. They're hoping he will be back in September to help lead the charge in the playoffs. But other than that, the news is fairly short.
Bare.
Yeah, there's not really much going on.
You know, just a quick note on your Carlos Gomez thing. He signed with the Rangers, and the hope is that he'll take over Chu's spot in the outfield. But you know, I think we all aren't that surprised they didn't sign with the Cardinals because Randal Grichuk has been hitting really well lately. Since his comeback from AAA, he's hit multiple home runs, and a lot of them have been important too. You know, he hit one against the Mets, and he also has hit a big one against the Phillies on Friday night. So I don't think that comes to a surprise. If Grichuk can stay healthy, then he will hopefully turn out to be the Randal Grichuk we have all expected him to be.
Exactly. Other than those two quick notes, I can't think of anything else really that's going on.
There really isn't all that much. Just real quickly, I do want to go over the upcoming Cardinal schedule until our next podcast. Just sort of preview the week ahead. So the Cardinals will finish up their series against the Phillies today, and then they're actually going to come back home for 6 games, 3 against the Mets and 3 against Oakland. And Oakland wraps up their interleague schedule for the season. You know, the Mets have actually been sliding pretty hard the second half of the season, and then Oakland really isn't that good. So we do face DeGrom on Wednesday, and possibly Steven Matz on Thursday. But I don't see a reason why the Cardinals cannot take, 4 or 5 out of those 6 games.
One thing is I don't even know if the Cardinals will face Steven Matz because there's been a lot of talk.
Right.
There's been a lot of talk to say that he might skip a start. I think he has a
elbow problem.
Bone spurs in his elbow. So the schedule nonetheless is looking very favorable to the Cardinals. The thing is they have to go in and perform at a very high level if they want to keep this wildcard spot. And the last time I saw, they were 2 games out of the number 1 wildcard spot to get that home field advantage against the Giants.
As of right now, as of Sunday morning here, they are in control of the second wildcard spot. Still 2 out. They're 2 out of Los Angeles, and then they're 1.5 ahead of Miami and 2 ahead of Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's been playing really well, so I actually think Pittsburgh will have more to say about this wild card than Miami will.
No, actually, I think when I looked at it, San Francisco was the second or the first wild card spot. So I think
the NL West standings has the Giants half a game in front of the Dodgers.
Yeah, so that's why. Okay, right now, technically, the Cardinals are still in the playoffs, even though not playing a very, not even close to the season they had last year, the 100 wins. But we've seen them do this before where they're barely over 500, and they've won a championship from it. And right now, I think that they're clicking at an unbelievable level. The pitching's doing great. Offense is doing great. They fell a little bit short last night in that win. You can't always depend on Jed Jerko to hit a ninth inning tying home run.
Did you watch the game last night?
Yes, I watched.
What were your thoughts on Luke Weaver?
He's good. But like they stated several times, he's turning 23 actually today. He's got a lot of learning to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that inside fastball he threw to Cesar Hernandez
just got absolutely drilled. Yeah.
Yeah, but that pitch, if you look at Cesar Hernandez's hands going through that swing, there's not too many people that are going to bring their hands in that far to do that. Now, scouting report may say that Cesar Hernandez does that a lot, and you should stay away from that. But when we did this series predictions, we predicted that Jeremy Hellickson was probably going to pitch very well, and he did.
Exactly.
For the most part.
Exactly.
That changeup he was throwing last night was nasty.
Filthy.
And
it was filthy.
And I think that Weaver tried to pitch off his changeup as well, and I don't think his changeup is his best pitch. I think he needed to establish fastball control before he moved on to anything else. And last night, I didn't see a lot of fastball control.
You raise a pretty good point. I like to sort of compare this to football, is that if you don't have a running game, you're not going to have any other sort of game. I mean, if you don't have a running game, you're not going to have a passing game, and therefore you're not going to have any offense. In baseball, if you don't have a fastball and you don't control it, you're not going to have any other pitch.
Exactly. And another quick thing too is I did like the umpiring last night. I thought it was very fair. I watched a couple different games last night. I watched the tail end of the Orioles and the Astros. I watched the tail end of that. And then I watched some of the Yankee Angels game. But last night in that Orioles-Astros game, a complete blowout, and the umpire was still making the same calls as he was doing when the game first started. So I think that the officiating, the games that I saw last night was very fair, including the Cardinal game. There was a couple times where Brandon Moss sprung up on an outside pitch that he thought was a ball. And then the very next time around, Cameron Rupp came up, and obviously he's right-handed, and then he kind of threw it in the same location for a righty, and the umpire called it a strike as well. Mm-hmm. So I think the officiating last night was really good. Matt Carpenter did come off his little schneid too. He actually hit a double to finally get his first hit in the series. But, I mean, we predicted that Jeremy Hellickson was going to come out and pitch very well, and he did that. And his, like you said, his changeup was very nasty. I thought it honestly was a really good game. Not too many people pitch off of their changeup, and a lot of people pitch off their fastball, and so it's a little bit different look. Granted, for us, we won't face Jeremy Hellickson in the playoffs just because the Phillies won't make it. But I'm honestly surprised that Jeremy Hellickson is still on the Phillies as good as he is.
I am too. There was a lot of rumors, surrounding his name at the trade deadline, and I don't think he was a bad piece to trade if you're the Phillies. Why not trade him to the Giants or the Red Sox? So a team like that who could definitely use a starting pitcher.
Oh, well, especially some team, because the Astros were just 2 out not too long ago.
Or are the Astros, right?
And the Astros needed a starting pitcher, and I think that the Blue Jays, to make a good-sized push, need a starter as well. So you had teams out there that would probably be willing to give up some pieces. Maybe if the Astros would have thought about it, a Carlos Gomez and Jeremy Hellickson kind of deal. The Astros probably had to throw in somebody else, but you get a front-of-the-line starter. He's not that old. I think that would have been a smart idea, but not dwelling on that. The Cardinals have so far played some good baseball up until this point here as of late, and that's awesome to see. It's really good, and like you said, Grichuk is starting to hit. Sorry to rambling on, guys, but there's really not too much to talk about. I know Paul said he had one more thing that he wanted to come over.
I have one more thing, and then I have one very short thing, so two. So after they play Oakland next weekend, they go to Milwaukee, and to Cincinnati, and to Pittsburgh. So the schedule does look pretty favorable, at least up to September 5th when they go to Pittsburgh. So if there's a time to capitalize on these things, do it now, because you don't want to wait till the end of September to start winning games. And then my last thing, I really do feel like the 2016 Cubs or the 2015 Cardinals, a team that is really, really good, that probably should win the pennant, go to the World Series because they have the talent to do so, but they may have peaked too early. And if the Cardinals play the Cubs in the playoffs, I think the Cardinals could easily win, because much like last year when the Cardinals just kind of peaked too early and the Cubs beat them, I think that could be the same case this time around, except for the Cubs peaking too early and the Cardinals getting to them.
Yeah, you gotta look at it from a player's standpoint too. When I played in middle school, not too many people knew Greenville, Illinois. So it was, no one really thought that we would win. But what happens is you win one game and you're super confident. You're overflowing with confidence going into the next game.
Once that ball gets rolling, it tends not to stop.
Yeah, it starts to roll. In that season, though, for us, we did in the championship game kind of let it go. That was, I think, a lot of tiredness and fatigue. Granted, middle school kids comparing to professionals who usually don't get super fatigued. But that's what it takes. You go in a little nervous, because every team was going to go in nervous. But when you're playing a juggernaut team like the Cubs, you're going to walk in with some doubts. Especially your pitcher's probably going to walk in, hey, is my defense going to live up to what they can do? Is my offense going to back me up when I'm throwing these pitches? Am I going to feel safe enough to throw that fastball, down and into Anthony Rizzo to see if he'll even swing at it, kind of thing. Because you have to challenge even if it's his hot zone, you have to challenge those zones, because if you don't, then you'll end up walking him, and they know that.
And then Chris Bryant comes up, and then you're in even deeper trouble.
Exactly. So I think that once if the Cardinals can get past whoever they play in the wild card and can get to the Cubs, I think if they score the first run of the first game, I'm not saying it's a winner, but I think that the confidence moves all the way over to the Cardinals. Right. Because like you said, the Cubs have all this confidence going in. So I agree with you. I think that the Cubs might have peaked too early. You won't know until the playoffs if that is the case. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that the Cardinals could go in and win this series and do what they got to do. But sure. Other than that, Paul, I have nothing. I really have nothing else to talk about. There's really nothing going on. You're kind of at the bottom of the season. This is now where you got a couple series left, and then it's playoff time. So we have to keep up with that, and the Cardinals do have a favorable schedule coming down to the end. So I mean, you're right. It's put up or shut up time for any team. If you want to have a chance at the playoffs, you better start taking care of your own business. And that's what we're seeing now, because the Dodgers and the Giants aren't going to lose that many games, because we all know how good of teams they are. But yeah, I am out of topics to talk about. Pretty bare week when it comes to news and commentary from us for the Cardinals. But look out for our content this week. We'll have previews for the Mets and for the A's. We'll have a podcast on Wednesday night, and same old until we get to the playoffs, and then we'll start doing some new programming. For Alex Schneider, my name is Paul Epi from the 11th Inning Stretch. Thank you very much for joining us.